We're live, episode 240 of the Jas Takhar podcast. We're live on Twitch, but you most likely are listening to the podcast right now while you're driving or maybe taking your dog for a walk, or maybe you're on the treadmill. And last but certainly not least, you might be watching the recording on YouTube. As always, if this episode was valuable, maybe it was the whole episode, maybe it was a chunk of it, maybe there was a clip, maybe there was one nugget. All I ask you to do is share it with a friend, a colleague, a family member, because the best way for me to start changing other people's lives, or at least at bare minimum, hopefully changing their day, like just in a somewhat of a positive way, is if you share the episode. And today I'm going to be talking about building resiliency in your career / business and life. Now, I want to add the disclaimer, I'm not a therapist, okay? I'm going to be talking about some resiliency and some hardships. I think it's safe to say a pretty big tragedy that happened in my life. And I'm going to speak about the fact that I think I've gotten over it in a very, very positive manner. And I say that because some people know the stories that I'm going to be talking about, but most of you have never really heard about it because I haven't spoken about it on a podcast. The people that have heard about it is people on my team and coaching members and clients that I have. Some real estate clients were obviously part of my business and life at that time as well. But I also want to add the fact that just because I did it the way that I did, I'm not recommending it for everyone. What I'm hoping for is that you feel inspired by the fact that you can get over failure. You can get over a tragedy. You can get over any type of financial hardship, which some of the stories I'm going to be talking about definitely include that. But you don't have to do it my way. In fact, there's probably, one of the stories I'm going to be speaking about is the tragedy that I've mentioned already. And I think some people probably could have done even better with the way that I did it in terms of taking a little bit more time. Like, you don't have to get up right away. And what I mean by that is that when something happens, understand that this thing that we called life, and a lot less important, business, it really needs to be looked at like a marathon. Now, you might be somebody who's watching or listening right now and you're 77 years old and you're like, well, Jas, I don't think I have a lot of time left. Well, maybe that might be true, but maybe that might not be true. I mean, at 77 with medicine the way that we have it now, and if you're someone who did take care of yourself from a health perspective, a nutrition perspective, I mean, there's a really good chance that you're going to live till 100. Well, and even if that doesn't happen, isn't it nice to at least think that it could happen, that you still got a lot more time? I mean, from 77, we're talking about you still got 23 years, right? If you think about the first 23 years of your life, or even the last 23 years of your life, I'm sure it went quite quickly, but still a lot of time. And so maybe though you're somebody who's 42 and you're like, okay, Jas, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I'm probably, getting close to halftime. Anybody who watches any sports, you have enough data now to understand that there's teams who are down at halftime significantly. Football, basketball, I mean, teams are down in the fourth quarter with 3 minutes left and they still come back and win. Not that I'm a big fan of the New England Patriots, but in the Super Bowl against the Atlanta Falcons, probably about 7, 8, 9 years ago, I mean, in the fourth quarter, they were down by 28 points. That's 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. That's a huge obstacle that they needed to overcome. They came back and won the Super Bowl, the biggest sports event in the world. Why? Because they figured out how to go back to basics. And that's something that I'm going to be talking about, how I got over some of the hardships from a financial perspective, how I got over some tragedy, how I got over some of the obstacles and the resilience it took to do that. And so let's get right into it. And as always, if you're watching the recording or you're watching live right now on Twitch, feel free to ask any questions, jump in right into the chat, and I'll do my best to answer as many questions and or comments that you have near the end of today's episode. Back in 2017, January of 2017, our business, my real estate business, REC Canada, along with 2 business partners, was doing quite well. In fact, we were just coming off of our best year to date, that being 2016, but we realized we needed to put some more systems into place. We needed to also add some role players, some more team members. And so going in and into 2017, we really got a grasp on those systems that we needed to put into place. We hired some new team members. You know, when like you just know that you're like jiving with each other, you know, you're in a flow state, like things are just going well. You put on an event, 75 people were supposed to show up and 69 showed up. Like you got like really good numbers. You were speaking to people on the phone. There's money that's rolling in. We started investing money back, not only into the business, but personally, I started to invest into properties within my within the 3 business partners, myself, Simon, and Simos. We actually really got into role definition. And so we were really, as I mentioned, in a very flow state. We were asked to speak on some of the biggest stages when it came to the world of investing into Canada with real estate. And so, I mean, we were doing events with 500, 1,000, 1,500 people. We started to put out content through our website, starting to get a lot of clicks. Like, I can't stress enough how much of a flow state we were in going into the summer of 2017, and then very early into 2017. We were already actually starting to think about 2018 because we hit all of our targets right around that like August, September. Like we had massive goals we wanted to hit for 2017, and I'm like happy to say that we got to like 98% of those targets in August or September of 2017. And then it was a cold night in September, to be exact, September 16th, and I got a phone call. I got a phone call from one of my business partners, Simos, and if anybody knows him, he sometimes, you know, is he's a loudspeaker. And what I mean by that, he has a lot of passion, and I mean that in the most positive way. So hearing his voice sometimes in a positive, in a loud manner doesn't really surprise me. But something seemed off this time because it wasn't his normal loud voice. I heard some panic in the voice, and he asked me if I have heard the news. And I said, what are you talking about? As I was playing poker, having a couple of drinks with 6, 7 of my friends at my home, and, you know, just having an amazing night, just doing what boys do, playing poker, you know, picking on each other, having laughs, having some drinks, having some food. And I said, Simos, I have no clue what you're talking about, bro. Like, what's going on? And he's like, Simon's been shot. I was like, what? What do you mean, like shot? Like we did a lot of content in, like, are you talking like video? What are you talking about? And he said, no, he's been shot. Yeah, he's dead. I was like, Simos, this is not like, you know, this is a dumb joke. Like, this is stupid for you to just like, what are you doing? What are you saying? He's like, Jas, like, I need you to like focus right now. I know what you've been doing in terms of drinking and playing poker with the boys, but Simon's been shot and he's dead. And anybody who's been through a tragedy like that, you can probably, or heard news like that, you can probably understand that life slows down. In fact, it stops. And that's exactly what happened to me. It felt like a rock, a boulder was thrown at me. I was almost outside of my body. Because leading up to that, Simon became not only a mentor of mine, a business partner of mine, but for 13 years, he was my older brother. And to get the news that not only did he get shot, in a funny way, I still remember that moment, that when he told me he got shot, I was like, oh, okay. People come back from that. But the fact that Simos kept on mentioning that he was dead and not coming back, was probably the worst news I've ever heard. And if it wasn't for a time back in 1999 where my best friend, after us hanging out one night, went out somewhere and died in a car accident, I probably would not know, like I would have no idea how to deal with this. And so as I made some phone calls, because I knew who Simon had went out for dinner with that night, and it now became real as I turned on the TV, and it was plastered on all news outlets locally here in Toronto, because Simon was a very charismatic leader in the world of real estate in not only the Greater Toronto area, but the country. This became like headline news. And it's funny because you might have seen news before or read something in an article, and there's something to like, until it hits home, you never really know the feeling. As I'm watching footage on TV with a sheet over a body at the middle of the street in downtown Toronto, knowing that is an older brother of mine, that is my best friend, I quickly called my wife, who was out, and told her, like, I gotta go downtown. I gotta get to, I don't even know where I need to go, but we need to figure, like, I need to go where he is right now to make sure it's him or this is real. And what I was still able to, in that moment, do was realize that I had to find something to be grateful for. And it's hard when you know that that is someone that close to you is never coming back. And maybe this is a lesson that someone who's watching or listening right now could take, is that I guess no matter whatever happens, there's always something to be grateful for. And for me in that moment, not that it made everything okay, not that it took any of the pain away. As I speak about it right now, 7-8 years removed from it, the pain is still there. The loss of a friend is still there. There's still something missing in my heart. What I chose to be grateful for, as I think at every moment, if you still have breath, if you still can breathe, you can always go somewhere to be grateful. And for me, it was the fact that my 2 kids, who now at the time of this recording are 10 and 8, were sleeping upstairs. And that was the only thing that kept me going in that moment, was understanding that, yeah, I'm a business person. Yeah, I'm a friend. But the title that really matters at the end of the day to me is daddy. And so that fact that they were okay allowed me to, in a certain way, like, to understand and fathom that no matter what, we have to find ways now. And I say we, myself, my family, my friends, in terms of who knew Simon, our business, our clients, we had to find some way to get past this. And as the days went by, and as I think about it even now, there was just always a cloud. Like, even if there was something to smile about, you kind of always knew that in any moment in those next few weeks and months, that smile or that laughter would, no matter what, turn into darkness, because then you would be reminded of what just happened weeks before or months before. And so, as I said earlier, and when I started this podcast today, when a tragedy of that ilk happens in your life, I am not recommending to do what I did from the perspective of I distracted myself. And in a way, I dug myself deeper into work because that became the distraction. And that worked for me. And I'll talk about more how and what I did. But I want everybody to understand that there's nothing wrong with taking time when something like that happens. Time to reflect, time to mourn. 7, 8 years later, I don't even know if I've mourned properly. And maybe today's the episode, or for some reason, and I'm by myself in terms of not having a guest. And I get to speak into the mic that I own, my platform, so I can speak about whatever I want in a way that I'm letting it get out more. But if you feel like you need to take time and mourn longer, no one should be able to tell you how long this should take. Because I don't think anybody really has an answer in terms of how to deal with death of a friend or family member. And so what I would recommend is that if you think you need someone to talk to, like a qualified therapist, a friend or a family member, you should do that. For me, I only knew one way to get past it, which was to distract myself with work. And so what I did was, in those weeks and months after his passing, was I showed up to work every single day and decided that I was going to continue the legacy. And within a month, because of the way that he passed, like you might be thinking right now, he got shot at a restaurant. It's a little different than just like a health reason or a car accident. I still don't have any answers on what happened. Police did investigations, and we have no answers for it till this day. I knew the man that I knew for the hours that we worked together every single day, and nothing in his life from my set of eyes would tell me that that was warranted. Meaning, I don't think he was in any type of gambling problem or owed people money, not that I know of. And so you can imagine, even at weeks after, even like right now, anytime that pops into my head, the thought of him, which probably still till this day happens at least once a day, that not knowing and having the closure on what happened is, for lack of a better word, weird. Like it's still open. I guess the investigation, but definitely the wound. For the first time ever, I thought I was going to quit. In fact, I didn't think I was going to quit. I actually decided I was going to quit. Because even though it was only a month after his passing, the cloud of the daily going into work, the cloud of his passing, because I've dealt with the death before of my best friend at such a young age, I was 17 when that happened, I understood that life goes on. It's not going to be the same, but I did understand that life goes on. Like I was able to grasp that not everything just stops now. But to then be stepped on almost, not by the organization or the company of who decided to stop doing business with us. Not that. Not them, sorry. But the fact that we lost that just after a month as that cloud was dissipating of the passing, for the first time in my business and really my career, I decided I was going to quit because I just couldn't handle it. It was too much all at once. You know, Mike Tyson said it the best. You'll see someone's resilience when they get punched in the face. If you don't know who Mike Tyson is, he's probably one of the best heavyweight boxers in history. And, you know, I've been punched in my face with other things in my business, nothing as big as, nothing as unique as a tragedy like Simon's passing. But I've never gotten punched like 4 or 5 times at the same time. And as I continue to tell you some other things that happened in such a short period of time, even the 2 punches in the face almost simultaneously, like only 30 days apart, was too much. I maybe thought I was built for it. I don't think I was built for it at that time. And then at the same moment that I decided to quit, anybody who knows me, I'm not a big computer guy. I don't have a lot, like I don't have a desk, but I did have a desk in this office that I was at, but I really didn't have anything on it because I don't have a computer. And there's one picture that I had every day that I got to see, and it was the picture of my 2 boys again. At that time, the picture, and I still have it, it's now in my kitchen at home because it serves as my reminder of the time that I was going to quit. Because I saw that picture as I was grabbing my stuff from the office and putting it into a banker's box, into a cardboard box, which would have been 5 to 7 things, and that I was going to pack up and quit. But as I saw the picture of my 2 boys, who were in this picture probably 3 and 1, that's when I made the decision that my story wasn't going to end. The story of my career, my business, but most importantly, my life was not going to be told in a way that I quit that day. And most importantly, I needed to show my 2 little boys that in life, definitely in business, in your careers, you are going to get punched in the face. But it's a matter of how many times you get up, not how many times you get knocked down. And as long as you get up one more time, then you got knocked down, you have a shot at making a difference. You have a shot to attaining your goals. You have a shot at whatever dream you have for your life. And so, as I took everything back out of the banker's box, that's when I went back to the tools that I realized I had. Those tools are the ones that I'm going to be speaking about today to help you possibly get through the financial hardship obstacles, tragedy that you might be facing now, that you might face in the future, to help you get past that. But my story of resiliency didn't end in my business and my life with just at that time of losing that client and Simon's passing. 2 months later, in December, as I made the decision that I'm going to keep this going and I'm not going to quit, I decided to put on our first educational event for clients after Simon's passing, which at that point was a huge deal for me personally, because I was taking the lead now in being in front of the camera, being front and center on a stage, putting on the event from the taking the lead from the perspective of the sales and the marketing of our real estate business, REC Canada. And I did what I knew to do, which was let's make some phone calls after putting out about $15,000 in Facebook and Google ads to bring in leads to get people to the event. And it went pretty well. So I thought. What happened is, as we set up this event, we had approximately 100 seats to fill. And we got to 120 people registered. But this event was going to be put on about an hour and a half away from where our office is in the city of Toronto. We were putting this event on in an area called Kitchener, because that was a project that we were working. And it just made sense to do the event where the project was going to be built. And so about 2 weeks leading in, we had about 120 people registered, and we got about 40 cancellations. It was okay. We had 100 seats to fill, even if 80 people, not a big deal. I called the hotel where we put on the conference. We were serving a 3-course lunch. I wanted to go all out, as this was kind of my coming out party in terms of taking the lead from a sales and marketing perspective. And I had 2 Greyhound buses, because most of the people that were purchasing this project were going to be coming from the area of Toronto. And so it just made sense. Let's make life easier for them so they don't have to drive. We all just jump in a Greyhound bus. Gives us time to build a relationship with them heading there as well as heading back. I had 2 buses booked. More cancellations started to come in. I canceled one of the buses, said we don't need it. Called the hotel, can get a smaller conference room, same lunch. Let's do it for 50 people. Let's make like we're obviously going to get the 50. We had 120 to start with. We're going to get to the 50. 2 days before, numbers went down to about 40. Said that's not a big deal. We'll just get rid of some chairs. The room will still look packed. It will look great on camera. And we had to leave Toronto at around 9 a.m. to get to the place for 10:30. We were going to do a presentation and then serve lunch for noon. We were now into this event by about $25,000 to $30,000, because I ran more ads to try to fill the seats that we had lost, as well as the cost of the room, the lunch, a little bit of wine. And at 8:30, nobody was there. It was a little storm coming, but nothing that Torontonians are not used to. It was a little odd that we didn't have a couple of people there already. But as I mentioned, it's not a big deal. People are probably driving in. It was a Saturday morning. As I was able to use some of my charisma with the bus driver, who was quite adamant that he was going to leave at 9 a.m. as he had other pickups. I was able to hold him off till about 9:30. The problem is that at 9:15, we had two people who showed up. And those two people had already purchased. They came just for the ride and for some lunch, which we were more than happy to have them. However, nobody else showed up. I went to Kitchener-Waterloo with the two people that did show up to an event that was supposed to have 50 people after spending $25,000 to $30,000 with no new prospects. On the way back, it was one of the loneliest moments I've ever had in my life, because now I really failed. I failed myself, which is generally easy to get back up from, for me anyways. But as I looked out over to my team members, I failed them. I failed my business partner. I failed my VP. I failed my director. And I also failed Simon, because I obviously wasn't able to handle this. But I knew I wasn't going to quit. That I knew. And I spoke about tools that I'm going to give you. This is the number one tool that I want everyone to use for the rest of their life. It's a formula. The formula is E plus R equals O. Say it again. The formula is E plus R equals O. The E stands for event. Something happens. A tragedy. You didn't get the client that you were hoping to land. You didn't get the job that you were hoping to land. You didn't get the partner that you were hoping to go out on a date with. The video that you put out there didn't do as well as you thought. The event that you were putting on didn't go as well as you thought. You can't change the E. It happens. Can't change it. What you can change is the next part of the formula, which is the R. The R is your response to that event. How you react to that event will now determine the O. The O is the outcome. And so as I was driving back, I made the decision that I will no longer rely on any cold business until I nurture the people that have already trusted me, already like me, already know me, but that I didn't do a good enough job leading up to that day doing, meaning that I didn't nurture them. And so I made the decision driving back. And as we got back to the office, I went to the whiteboard. I brought in the whole team. And I told them that we are no longer focusing on any type of cold business. We are going back to what's known as basics. And basics in this business of sales is making sure that you connect with the people that you already know, like you, and possibly trust you. But the lesson I want everybody to learn is that my response to that event was one of solution-oriented, not focusing on the problem. Because see, one of the other tools that you can use is understanding that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions you ask yourself. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions you ask yourself. And so, instead of asking myself, why am I a failure? Why can't I get people to come to an event? Why am I not able to take the lead? Why does this always happen to me? I decided to ask different questions. Because I know either way that my brain, long before Google came out, and now very similar to Google, when you put in a query or a prompt in Google or ChatGPT, it gives you an answer. Your brain's been doing that long before both of those softwares came out. Meaning, the quality of the questions you ask yourself will determine the quality of your life. And so I started to ask myself different questions. And the questions I asked myself were, how am I going to be better? What can I do to ensure that we keep this business going? What are ways that we can nurture our clients? What are ways that we can make sure that we're bringing value? Who can I bring on board to help? Who do I already have that might just need to be put into different positions? And as I asked myself those questions, I got the answers. They all didn't come to me all at once on some just regular day, but it became an obsession of mine. It was the one and only thing I was thinking about, was getting answers to those questions. So if there's only one thing that you're going to get out of this episode today, it's to remind yourself about the quality of questions that you ask yourself will determine the quality of your life. Because when you ask yourself questions like, why are you so stupid? Why am I so prone to failure? Why can't I get things right? Your brain's going to come up with the answers. Well, remember that time, and remember when you failed here, and it's just this vicious circle that you'll go into. But we can use that in a much more positive way. And so to help you get over these obstacles that are going to come no matter what, life is supposed to go up and down. Because the time it goes as a flat line, it's when you're dead. There's supposed to be ups and downs. It's how you react to those ups and downs that's going to actually be either a lesson for someone or you're going to be a positive example. How you deal with the ups and downs is either you're going to be a lesson or you're going to be an example. And I want to be an example of someone who was able to get up after they got knocked down. And so that's why when things happen, and they generally don't happen to me, I wake up in the morning saying they happen for me. I always remember the formula of E plus R equals O. E plus R equals O. And how you wake up in the morning and what questions you ask yourself are very important. And so I wake up every morning after I spend my 3 to 4 minutes of gratefulness, and I take it right to the core. I don't pray and ask for things. I just thank God for everything that I already have. And so I start with, thank you for allowing me to get up today. Because I know there's people who didn't get up after they went to sleep last night. And that might be like, holy shit, do you have to really start there? Yeah. You know why? Because If you're grateful for the fact that you woke up, isn't everything else really just a bonus? There's people who didn't wake up after last night. And you did. You're able to watch this and listen to this. Then I go from my inner circle, my kids, my wife, my parents, my brothers, my family. Then I go to my work family, my business partners, my staff, my team members, my clients. And then I go right into the question. It's the question that I ask every single day in the morning. Funny thing happens, because I'm asking that question, answers start coming to me. So the question that I ask myself and the tool that I want you to use is, instead of saying, why did this happen to me? Why is it always me? I can never get anything right. Why? I want you to start your day with how you can bring value to as many people as possible. I implore you. In fact, I'm begging you. I'm begging you to try it for 30 days. Try asking yourself that question for 30 days straight. And if you don't see a positive change, come back to me and let me know. See, there's so many more stories that I can continue to go into. From a financial perspective, 3 months after that event, it came to a realization. Partners that we had in the past stole $372,000 from myself and my current business partner. Individually. I got hit for $372,000. My current business partner got hit for $372,000. They were doing some fraud. But now I was mentally prepared for it. I was mentally prepared to understand that that's the event. How am I going to respond? It's going to determine the outcome. I'm proud to say right now, today, at the time of this recording, funny how life works out, $375,000 is my residual income every year from one of my businesses. Meaning every year I earn $375,000 without doing any work. How funny is that? That's the exact number that I'm sitting at right now. The number that was actually stolen. I was able to get back to it because of the tools that I spoke about. The formula I've given you, the fact that you have to start your day with gratefulness. The questions that you ask yourself will determine not only your day, your week, your month, and your year, but your whole life. Now, some people that are watching or listening might not have the right environment for it. What I would recommend is, if you don't have the right environment, you have to change your environment. Meaning, seek out people. Seek out people that are positive, inspiring, motivating, uplifting. Because if you hang out with 5 people that are inspiring, motivating, uplifting, positive, there's such a good chance you're going to be number 6. Now, unfortunately, if you hang around people that are not positive and not uplifting, in that same example, there's a good chance you're going to be number 6. If you're watching or listening to this podcast, kudos. Not because it's mine. I say kudos to you because you're probably somebody who wants to get inspired, learn strategies, learn tactics. And if you've listened so far and you're still listening after 50 minutes almost, you're somebody who's really, really wanting a change. And so maybe you're on the start of your journey. Maybe you're past, maybe you've went through some tragedy. Maybe you're on the other side of failure. And maybe it's your time now to be one of those people for someone else. Because true leaders develop other leaders. So now you have a job. You got to do that for someone else. But if you're someone who's just at the start of the journey and you just went through some failure and you went through some resiliency right now, then it's your job to seek positive people and information. So I want to leave you with a couple of book recommendations that helped me through this. The number one book to dealing with failure, being resilient in your business and in your life, in my opinion, is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by the late, great Dr. Stephen Covey. This book is now sold over 50, 60, 70 million copies, if not more, in hundreds of languages. There's a reason for it. The author goes deep into 7 habits, but it's the first one that I think is the most important. In fact, it's probably why he put it as number 1. And that first habit is being proactive. Too many people live a reactive life. They let life happen. They let business happen to them instead of being the one who takes charge and makes it happen for them. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by the late, great Dr. Stephen Covey. Number 2 book recommendation, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. This book was written in the early 90s. A phenomenal book on strategies and tactics for both your business and your life, and a tool that I go back to on a regular basis to just refresh my mind. And the third book I'll leave with you is a book by Jack Canfield called The Success Principles. It's not as heavy as the first 2, as I mentioned. Not that the first 2 are like massive textbooks by any means. But it's 68 to 69 principles to have success in both business and life and in your career that I think is a must read. It's another book that I probably go back to once every 3 years. All 3 of those books are very easy to consume through an audiobook format, which I highly recommend to people as you drive. Probably what you're doing right now with this podcast. But if you're not somebody who likes to consume books in hard copy or audiobook, you really don't have any excuse in 2024, because there is ample, meaning lots, meaning millions of YouTube videos, podcasts like this, meetups, meaning meeting other people in person or even virtually, that you can stay in a positive mind state. Because at the end of the day, it's up to you. It's up to you to create the life that you want and not let it happen to you. I'm curious. I'm curious to hear your story. if you're up to it and you want to help develop other leaders, maybe help someone else who's going through hardship, failure, I want you to share your story, whatever platform you're on. I urge you to write a comment if this is on YouTube. I urge you to send me a direct email, info@jastakhar.ca, because you never know who's watching or listening or reading that you might just help. And sometimes getting past tragedy and hardship and obstacles is easier when you help someone else. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's the human connection. Maybe it's the human connection that makes us feel good when we help someone else. And so I'm asking you to be that person. Share your story. I would love to read it, watch it, listen to it. That was episode 240 today. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you.